Daled ve'at eish lahavin inyan hashamayim hachadashim mahu. And now we need to understand the concept of what are these new heavens. Yuvan be'ekdim inyan ha'afresh ben gan eden de'achshav. Lematan schar delasi lavo. You can understand by prefacing the idea of the Gan Eden now and the reward that we will have in the world to come by the revival of the dead. Shahari Yiduad Lamochar Lekabel Scharam Ha'ikar Hu Achar Tchias HaMesim, as is known that the statement that tomorrow to receive the reward, that now is to work and tomorrow to receive the reward, that what is that tomorrow? That mainly is referring to after the revival of the dead. And so if so, we need to understand what's this concept of the Garden of Eden. That the Garden of Eden is only for an hour, so to speak, is only for a short amount of time. And what is the difference between them? And the concept is Kihine began Eden, that in the Garden of Eden, Yoshvim v'nehenin miziv, we sit and get a pleasure from the radiance, from the glimmer. And that's the concept of this great pleasure, which is drawn from the concept of atik, that the concept of atik in the spheros is the source of pleasure, that is to say, from Malchus of Atzilus Shenasis Atik Lebriya, which becomes the Atik for the world of Briya. So the higher Garden of Eden corresponds with the world of Briya, and the Malchus of Atzilus becomes the Atik for it, and the Atik corresponds with pleasure. So the pleasure of Gan Eden comes from the level of Atik of Briya. But how do you draw down such a pleasure? This happens through the work and the arousal from below, the neshamus u'malachim of the souls and the angels, b'chol vav yemei hamaisa, in all the 6 days of work. Sha'avodas haneshamus lamata, that the work of the souls below, keshen beguf, when they are in a body, levar birurim derapach, dereish beches, to purify the 288 sparks. And through this you have the arousal from below of the feminine waters, and this goes all the way up, it arouses all the way up to Malchus of Atzilus, in accordance with the arousal from below. That's how you have the masculine waters drawn down from above, began Eden, into the Garden of Eden, in the Ima, from the concept of the brains of the mother, the mochin of Ima, Hamilubashim, Be'olam HaBriya, which are enclosed in the world of Briya, Kenoda the Ima Mekanana Bekorsaya, and as is known, that the mother is nested on the throne. As to say, the concept of understanding of the neshamos, of godliness. That's their pleasure. And in Bina, you have this glimmer of the Atik of the pleasure in the understanding. In the concept of understanding, you have the pleasure. As is known, and that's why the higher Garden of Eden is in the world of Briya, from this reason, from the Atik of Bina. And similarly, through the arousal of the feminine waters below that were mentioned, so Malchus elevates the feminine waters from Zerampin, and is drawn to it masculine waters Gamkin, and in accordance with the type of arousal from below, and And similarly, from Za to Abba and Ima, Nimshach Mochin Lefi Erech HaMayin Nukvin is aroused to Za from Abba V'Ima in accordance with the arousal from Za. V'gam ha'makifim him tluim gam kin be'erech ha'mayin nukvin, so to draw down the encompassing lights is dependent upon the arousal from below, like we said with the concept of me'odecha of the Bali Tshuva. Ki lefi erech ha'pnimi kachu erech ha'makif, but it's also in accordance with the pnimi. Because whatever kind of pnimi you have, that's the kind of makif you're going to have above it. The pnimi is drawn down through the mayin nukvin, so the makif is going to correspond with the canal, like we said. So it's found then that all that we draw down now is dependent upon the feminine waters, and that's the arousal from below. That even in Adam Kadmon Hayalos Mayin Nukvin Kano, that you had this concept of the arousal from below. And know the Inyan Nimlach B'Nishmas and Shil Tzadikim, as is known with the concept of that before the creation, he, so to speak, asked the Neshamos of the Tzadikim whether or not he should create, or about the creation. That the pleasure that he would have in the Maisei mitzvahs of the tzaddikim, even before they're created, was, so to speak, their halas mayin nukvin. Shu aliyas ataynug mash osi lekabel mineshamos hatzaddikim. That's the going upwards of the pleasure that in the future will be received from the souls of the tzaddikim. Zeh haya b'chinas mayin nukvin. That was a concept of arousal from below. Le'ore mayin dechurin chulu, to awaken the masculine waters in Ak, even. But in the time to come, so it's written, Yaskil Avdi Chulu, my servant will be successful, will go upwards, the Gava Me'od, very high. Upedish, and the explanation is Shigam HaMe'od Yihya Gavo, that is to say that the Me'od will even be high, will be high. Gavo Yoser, higher still, Memashu Akshav, higher than what it is now. Even the Me'od, which is already high, will be even higher. And that is because the world will go back upwards as they were before the sin of the Adam, the first man, to the point where as Atzilus is now, will only be on the level of Bria or Yitzir and the like. Bechinas Atzilus da'az, Yihya b'mailus olamos ha'in sof da'achshav, and the Atzilus in that time will be on the level of the infinite worlds as they are now. And automatically then the worlds that are beyond Atzilus will be raised even higher and higher. And that's the concept of, and very high, the Me'od will be Gava, will be lifted up high. Even the Makifim, Shigam B'chinas HaMe'od, that even the concept of the mighty, the very Shu B'chinas Bli Gvul, the Lifnei HaTzilus, which is the concept now of the infinite beyond the world of Atzilus, Yisala Az Yoser, will be lifted up even higher. V'hu Gam Ken Inyan Mashe Nizbor Le'il, and this is the concept that we explained before, Shu B'chinas HaMe'od, the Bali Tshuva, that the Me'od of the Bali Tshuva, Yisale Az Gam Ken, will be lifted up also. And it's the same thing, because through this idea of with all of your might, that's what awakens these supernal encompassing lights, and they will also be lifted up in the time to come, like we said. And the main concept of the elevation, that in the time to come will be drawn down new lights, from the essence of the infinite light, not through arousal from below at all, because this arousal from below is only something we do now, שעדיין לא נספרו העולמות, that the worlds were not yet purified, ולכן שייך עבודת האדם להקפיה ולהפכה מחשוך לנהורה. And therefore, you can have this concept of to bend and to change from darkness to light. Which is not the case with the time to come. It says that the spirit of impurity will be wiped away from the land. And the world will be pure. And since we won't have this service of purification anymore in Shaykh Avoda, so you can't work on it and have arousal from below. Only the receiving of the reward. If so, you're going to be drawing down new things, of new lights from the essence of the infinite light, that are not caused by the arousal from below of the feminine waters. This drawing down will be higher than that which you draw down through arousal from below. Because what you can draw down through your arousal from below is only in accordance with, in commensurate with what the arousal from below was of Almasha. But this, that Hashem may be blessed, will shine on his own in the time to come. Or the highest types of lights, to a place where the arousal from below cannot reach there at all. And this, that in Tanya, in Yuvachayoi, Besofo Mevoar, in the end of that parak it says, so there it brings a maila to the Halas Mayin Nukvin, that the fruits that come through our efforts, Hiazriya and Atiyah, which are sowing and planting, are much greater and better than those that come up on their own without Isrus Lasata. From the naturally growing produce from the earth. And he says there that from this we can understand the nature of lights that are drawn down from above, into the lower worlds of Atzilos B'Yitzios. Alma. So this seems to be this firale that he holds that the masculine waters that are drawn to the feminine waters and an arousal from below are much greater than those which are drawn down not through the arousal from below. And this is also something we explain in the blessing that's before a mitzvah. So it seems to me that that's only all talking about the types of hamshachas we have now, while we're still doing the avodah. Then certainly the masculine waters that which comes from our arousal from below is going to be greater. Which is not the case with the time to come. That Hashem will command His kindness to shine new lights to a place where the arousal from below does not reach there at all. Certainly, then it is up above the masculine waters that are drawn from the feminine waters, where the arousal from below can reach there. It further seems to me that also this glimmer in the time to come that comes from a place where the arousal from below cannot reach there at all. It's also included within the category of the arousal from above, that's drawn through the arousal from below. With it's still in this category that it's in this that it's much greater than anything that comes on its own. And it's not comparable at all to the arousal from above that's drawn on its own without the arousal from below. And the concept is that these new lights, anuroim, gamkein, we see that they are also dependent upon our efforts from below. Because the reward in the time to come will only be to the righteous, who already have Torah mitzvos. It's only that all of Israel are tzaddikim. Because even the sinners of Israel are full of mitzvos, and nonetheless, those who do not have Torah mitzvos at all, do not have a place in the world to come. So we see, and now, if you want to say that those lights that we mentioned are not dependent upon the arousal from below at all, then it should be equal to all. Because it says, if you do righteousness, what have you given to him? If it's really coming from a place where the mitzvahs don't have any effect, it should be equal to all. But certainly we must say then that also these lights are only drawn down to those who already have an arousal from below through their Torah mitzvahs. But it's only to say are not actually drawn down from and corresponding to the arousal from below. Like the idea that the reward of a mitzvah is the mitzvah. You drew it down yourself through your effort. That from the mitzvah itself you draw down a corresponding reward. Like the flowering of a sprouting of produce from a seed. And the truth is that there are very, very high lights that are drawn through the mitzvahs themselves. And this is also the reward in the time to come. Only that there are even higher lights than them, that are coming from the essence of the infinite light truly, that are not able to be drawn down corresponding to the mitzvahs. Mamish truly, because their way is very high. But nonetheless, Hashem will still shine those lights in a way of a gift and kindness to those who love me and to those who guard his mitzvahs. V'kein kasav כסאי חלק ה' תניא שיש בייז מיני מתן שכר יין שם, that there's two types of reward. It's brought in Tanya in the first part. This Zohar HaKadosh. ונמצא שהאורס הנ"ל, אף על פי שאין באים וצומחים מהיסרוסת לסata. So it's found then that these lights, even though they are not coming and sprouting from the arousal from below directly, nonetheless, the arousal from below was a cause for them, al kol panim, nonetheless. My loss and mishubachim me'od me'od. That's why their greatness is much greater. From the arousal from above that's drawn through the actual efforts from below, truly. Because these masculine waters inside Gavhus Drachav, because they're so high, and they're very high level, there's no way for the feminine waters to awaken it. Only that it could, so to speak, be a foreign cause. And that's not the case with the masculine waters that comes not through the arousal from below. If there was the feminine waters, certainly it could awaken it and draw it down. And exactly the opposite. It would draw down even higher arousal from above. It's only because this generation does not merit, and there's not this type of arousal from below. When these lights come, nonetheless you still have this type of mercy from Hashem, to draw down masculine waters on its own. And that's when you get these kinds of lights from on their own that it's talking about in Tanya. This is what the truthfully a type of masculine waters that are not through the arousal from below at all. Not even through a faraway cause. And is also below through the arousal from above that's drawn through the arousal from below, truly cannot, like we said. And that's what it seems to me, as the Machzedek says, to explain this matter. And this is the concept of the new heavens, asher ani oseh, that I make. What does it mean, the new heavens that I make? That is these supernal encompassing lights. Like we said, Shemaim is the concept of encompassing lights. That are coming from the infinite light himself, without his and as is known in the time to come, will come new neshamos, right? So if you have new neshamos, you have new yichida, which is a new makifim, which were not amongst the neshamos of Adam Harishon at all. That from Adam Harishon came all the neshamos. A new neshama was not from Adam Harishon. Therefore, they're above the breaking and the fixing that happened through Adam and his chait and so forth. And the neshamas went down into the klippos and you had to be mitakin them. But they come from the inner concept of atik yomin truly, therefore they are not connected to the concept of purifications at all, not in the mind nukfin and not the mind the churin. So that's the Shamayim Chadashim. What about the heavens are my throne? That's what we're talking about now. When you have the makifim that are drawn through the arousal from below, like we said, the avodah of the Balei Tshuva with the B'chol Meodecha. Now the Navi proclaims to Israel that just like the new heavens that are standing in front of me, so it will stand in front of me, your children and your name. And what the intention here is, the that just like those new lights, they stand in front of me, that is above the curtain, should be in between the emanator and the emanated. So it will stand, your children and your name. What are your children? That which flows from you and your name. That's the concept of These lights that are drawn through your arousal from below, that's what you've caused and you have affected, so to speak, your children, and your name, your good name, from what you've done. And so too, they will stand above the parsa. That you should not think that these lights that you have caused through your lasata will be nullified in their existence truly in comparison to the new lights, these higher lights that will come on their own beyond Yisrus lasata. But rather those lights will also be elevated to stand in front of me beyond the parsa, beyond the curtain. Like we explained with the concept of that the me'od will be elevated, that the me'od itself of the Bali Tshuva will be elevated beyond its level, the kocho and its strength on its own, that are on its own it awakens. The heavens are my throne, which, like we said, is this concept of encompassing lights that comes down to Orpanimi. But in the time to come, they will be elevated to be standing in front of me beyond the parsa, just like the new heavens. And this is the promise that the Navi promised that in the time to come, even though will be drawn down new heavens, which are the supernal lights that are beyond the lights that are drawn through Torah mitzvos on their own. Not because of this will be nullified the lights that are through the arousal from below of the Bali Tshuva and their Torah mitzvos, but also they will be elevated to be beyond the curtain in comparison to the level of the new heavens. And this is the main concept of receiving the reward for your efforts. And that is that the me'od will be elevated. That the me'odecha itself will be elevated, not in accordance with its level. That's why it says, so too will stand, just like the new heavens, your offspring and your name. And this is also what it says. And each and every month, and each and every Shabbos, all flesh will come to bow down in front of me. Shin ban, all flesh is the concept of shin ban, which is that which causes in the actual aliyos. And this will be elevated in two ways. The first is from Bria Tzir Asiyah to Atzilus. And that it goes up now in the Gan Eden. The koch pol benifal is the things that you have caused and done in your mitzvahs. They will go up to Gan Eden. But in the time to come, the elevation will not be like now. Through the purifications. But they will come and bow down in front of me. And bittul that is in the essence of the infinite light, that's beyond the curtain.